Good morning, everyone. Welcome once more to the Aurum podcast, where we discuss all matters that relate to human resource and its affiliated issues. I'm your host. My name is Anthony Kuria, and I'm so glad that you could be able to join with us today. And this month of September, we've been discussing issues regarding risk and compliance in the workplace. This is a very sensitive topic that most business people go through, and especially now towards the end of the year, you're trying to put things together to make sure that you're compliant in one or two areas. So we've decided the month of September we'll discuss a lot as regards to risk and compliance. And today we want to talk specifically on labor compliance. In business you have all manner of compliance. You need to comply with the taxman. You need to comply with issues to do with insurance. You've got to comply with financial issues, regulatory. You need to make sure that your licenses are up here and there. But when it comes to labor, most of us forget that there are also compliance issues that need to be made here. And to discuss with us about that today is our friend, our good friend, Mr. James Kinuthia, who is an OSHA advisor. Welcome, James.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers. My name is James Kinuthia, as introduced. And I'm an OSHA advisor. When I say an OSHA advisor, that is as described by OSHA 2007. I'm also a fire safety auditor, as described by another subsidiary legislation we call the Fire Risk Reduction Rules. So we are what we call approved persons under the Act. And the person who approves us is a director of Occupational Safety and Health Services under OSHA 2007. So we look forward to engaging more. And to answer your questions with regards to OSHA 2007 and WIBA 2007, which are sister acts actually administered by the same department, and of course the overall in charge being Secretary OSH. And we shall discuss the structure even as we go on. Thank you.
Awesome, James. Thank you for that. And my co-host, Zipporah Kuria, she is the in-house HR consultant, and she'll help us see the signages between workplace compliance in regards to labor and what James will be discussing concerning the acts and the regulations that are up there. Now, as I said, the Aurum podcast is hosted by Aurum Consultants, and we are a limited company specializing in HR and risk advisory with a focused attention in resolving difficult human capital and business challenges. So karibuni sana. Now, as we begin our discussion today, Zippy, probably let me start from you, from a HR perspective, because people, if you are the typical businessman, you're looking at you have all these regulations that you've got to meet. You've got to make your staff happy, suppliers on side, your bank on side, making sure that you're expanding your market. So business people have a lot to juggle. Yeah? So they might sometimes be forgiven to think, to drop the ball when it comes to issues to do with labor compliance. So when it comes to workplace safety compliance, why is it so important? Probably you could tell us something on that.
Thank you, Anthony. Good morning, our viewers. I think that is a very important question, Anthony, to just look at why is it so important for us to be compliant. And I think I would start by saying workplace compliance is the very foundation of any business. Because if we are not compliant, we'll end up getting into a lot of challenges with the law. And not just labor compliance, but many other compliance areas, like you've mentioned. When it comes to KRA, you have to be compliant. When it comes to the city county government, you have to be compliant with the relevant licenses. But I think a lot of times as business people, when we engage people, we don't think much about the compliance levels that come with people. And sometimes it's probably because of the many business costs that have to come with it. But ideally, what I would say is the very essence, is the very core of you being able to run your business successfully, being able to run your business without much of a challenge. Now, I've seen scenarios where, you've gotten, for example, a letter from the labor office, they need to come and do an audit, or you have gotten people coming from the, labor department coming to do inspection. And what happens? As an employer, sometimes you freak out, you panic, and start looking for other ways to make sure you don't get yourself in trouble. Yet, if
Yes.
you understand the areas you need to be compliant on, it will be easier for you to start planning. So I would say it's the very core, it's the very essence of you being able to run your business successfully.
Aha, aha, aha. So for business people out there, just like the same way you look at tax issues and you're thinking, oh Lord, this has been the axe is about to swing on my neck, and you're about to go out of business or even worse. So, but if you have an expert on board, if you know what to do, you have somebody to assist you. You know the steps you're supposed to take, and the red flags that you're supposed to look out for. Then you can be able to do these things when it comes to workplace compliance very well. Now, James, let me.
Yes.
Now somebody's wondering. Okay, Zippy has decided about compliance. I'm hearing all those kind of things. So when it comes to OSHA, why is it important? Who is okay? Let me not ask important. Who is supposed to register?
All
Let's
right.
start from there.
Let me first of all pick something that Zippy said before I come to who is supposed to register.
Sure.
She's talking about compliance being a core aspect of business. We say there are three reasons why we do health and safety. The first one is a moral reason. And I think I like starting with this so that we set the base as to why we are discussing health and safety. The
Yes.
first reason is a moral reason, where we expect that there is no human being who will set up a business with an intention to hurt another.
Exactly.
And in case there are any factors within the workplace that would therefore expose anyone to injury or harm to their health, then morally you'd be expected to do something about it. Change the workplace conditions. Probably even do away with a certain process. Of course, following what we call the hierarchy of control of hazards. That is a moral reason. But sometimes we are so morally deprived that that is not a concern. So we come to the second level that we say the other reason we must do health and safety is a legal reason. And so the legal reason is what sets the pace for today when you talk about OSHA 2007. And that is the one that talks about who is supposed to register. And then before I come to that now, the third reason why we do health and safety, and this is what Zippy was trying to say to us, is a business reason. That it makes a lot of business sense to be compliant with health and safety, to make sure that you have a proper health and safety management system, because it not only affects not only affects how you deal with the law, but it affects the morale of your people. It affects how many hours they put in, because a healthy worker is a very good asset. If you have someone who is sickly, someone who is injured, people who are going out now and then because of injuries, and then you have to put others in overtime, have to replace. If anyone understands the cost of hiring a competent person, then you know why it is important to keep your employees, the people you have trained over the years and invested in, safe
Yes.
and healthy. Three reasons: moral, legal, and business. So those three are very key. Now, let me come to the issue of OSHA 2007. You're asking who is supposed to register.
Sure.
The law under section 44, that we call it actually part 4 of the law, because the law is at OSHA 2007 is divided into various parts. And
Okay.
under part 4 is where we talk about registration of workplaces. And the director is charged by OSHA to maintain a register of all workplaces within the jurisdiction of this country. And therefore, that means when it comes to who should register, we are told that every single workplace in this country should register. Then the question then posed would be, what is a workplace? Because that's where someone would be saying, am I really a workplace? Should I register? And the law defines a workplace as any land, location, a vessel, or thing where an employee, or rather upon which a worker is in the course of employment.
Wow.
Whether it is under a tree, whether it's inside a vessel, whether it's in a vehicle, so long as there is a worker who is in the course of employment,
Yes.
that the workplace, and that should be registered. So if you have an M-Pesa kiosk and you have employed someone, and there is a contract of employment, whether formal or what they call
Informal.
implied, all right,
Mm-hmm.
that is a workplace, and that should be registered. And all the particulars that are set out in the
Yes.
form for registration should actually be presented. So
Mm-hmm.
everyone who has a workplace should register.
Wow, 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 wow. Now, for our listeners, and I can see a few who have logged in. Thank you, Helen Gary, for logging in. Thank you, Simon Kubasu. Thank you for coming in. And for all others who are listening, James has put it in black and white that if you have an M-Pesa shop, you have, when you were speaking, James, I remembered there are a few people along where I stay, near where I stay, who have what do you call these people? These people who are welders, ironmongers. Yeah. And you can see they have all these things. They are attempting to have safety glasses, they have safety shoes, they have overalls. And you can see you don't need to be an expert to see there are certain hazards here. That's a workplace. We are talking about a shop. We are talking about any form of workplace that is out there, which means now the HR aspect comes in. If there is a worker whom you have hired there in your car wash, legally that's a workplace.
Yes.
So for my fellow Kenyans who are listening to us and who are in business and who are now thinking, okay, now James has said this thing you've got to register. So it means that barber shop that I have employed a few number of young men and women who are, shaving people, if it's a salon, making people's hair. That, according to the law, is a workplace.
Yes.
And it ought to be registered as a workplace. And we will discuss, as we continue, we will discuss these kind of things. I can see a question here. Should homes be a workplace? Factoring work from the home element. James, we will discuss this as we go. Because, that's a very good point that Zippy has brought out. Because you see now, since COVID began, working from home has become all the rage. Okay? And now certain issues come in. James, today, you're not in your office, you're seated in your house. You are doing your stuff. So there's questions that come up. I've had questions coming up like, is WIBA involved in this thing? Is OSHA coming in? And hopefully we will discuss these things as we go. Now, the third point that comes to mind, James, as you were saying, is now when I think about it, I'm wondering who is responsible to enlighten employers on this issue of OSHA. Could you kindly probably give us your thoughts on the same?
Right. My thought, I think, would be I'd look at it as a parent, first of all. That when you ask yourself who trains a child on who they end up being, and you realize there are so many stakeholders that are involved. There's a parents, there's a teachers, there's the house help, there's the friends they play with, there's the media, there's everyone. We have so many stakeholders who train the children to become who they are.
Sure.
Let's come to the business. When a business registers, they are bombarded with information from all quarters. And these quarters would be, government notices which are put through the media. That would be one of the ways which they learn. Advertisements through the mainstream media, which happens once in a while. And we must appreciate that sometimes the resources allocated to some of these departments may not be enough to really allow them to be the ones to send this information out. So therefore, you have other stakeholders. Aurum consultants, these are consultants who are also sending out the information. That is another way which people are enlightened. Hiring competent HR. I can promise you, any person who goes to a HR school, there's an element of health and safety that is taught in school. They get to hear about OSHA 2007. Talk about competent engineers who are working on your process. They've heard about OSHA 2007. So when you talk about who enlightens the employer, it is the people that they have even internally. The HR they hire who is competent. The engineer they hire who is competent. James Kinuthia, who is an approved advisor, who will come to them and tell them, oh, by there I do audits, and audits are supposed to be done because of A, B, C, and D. So when you talk about channels of enlightenment, we have a lot of information out here. And I've not even mentioned the internet. When you just go and say which law should I comply to as a business, you'll see all that being highlighted. And then when you look at even your business permit, I normally like saying this, your business permit here, City Council. Down there it tells you that having this license does not exempt you from complying with other safety regulations. So therefore, as an employer, you should ask yourself, which are these others that I'm being told by Kanjo Sijamaliza, right? So there's a lot of channels for us to get to hear about this. So there's mainstream, there's the personnel we have. And so I can say when it comes to information, if you really want to know what you are supposed to comply to, you'll get to learn about this. And those are the different channels we can get to hear.
Now, another question. You know Kenyans, you know us Kenyans, we always look, can I get away with this thing? If I don't comply, say. So let's enlighten our hearers, our listeners. Are there consequences for not registering?
Very clear ones. OSHA 2007, under the same part 4, that is section 44, because it has part 1, 2, and it has a subsection 1, 2, and 3. It clearly tells you that any person who occupies or uses a premise without registering that as a workplace, upon conviction, because that's an offense, they commit an offense. Actually, it says they commit an offense. And upon conviction, they are liable to either up to 100,000 shillings of fine or up to 3 months of imprisonment.
Okay.
Both, as the magistrate or the judge may decide. So it's 100,000 shillings, up to 100, that is a maximum, or up to 3 months of imprisonment. So let's say you're taken to court and you're thinking, Nikidogo, I'll not even pay, I'll not even register. For every continued subsequent violation, every day you accrue at 10,000 shillings or up to 7 days for every day that you continue to be in violation.
Wow.
For every day of continuous offense.
Offense.
Yes, so let's say you've been taken to court, you've been told, hey, by then you've not registered, you've used the workplace, so 100,000 shillings or 70,000 shillings. You pay the fine. And then you go home as a director and you think, bado sita register. From the day of that conviction, the next time, now there's a 10,000 per day.
Well.
Or up to 7 days for every day that you are still in violation.
My goodness.
That is how serious it is, not to register our workplace.
Wow. Zippy, Aurum consultant is also in the business. So probably Zippy, I want you to come in here and give us from a business perspective, just your own perspective, not as a HR, just from a business perspective. What would you tell the business people out there who are, as James has said, who are thinking, 100,000, I can pay and move on. I don't need to register for this thing. What's your perspective from a business angle?
Anthony, I would ask you the question, why would I want to pay 100,000 in fine to the government while I can register and pay 5,000 shillings for this license? Some of these licenses are not expensive.
Yes.
Some of them is an issue of just being compliant and taking the necessary steps to be compliant, which I think sometimes is either we don't know or we have not done our fact finding to know what we are supposed to do. And a lot of times what happens, we get caught up. And when we get caught up is when we end up paying these fines. But there's a similar way out as a business person. I need to understand, as Aurum consultants, for me to run this consultancy, what is the government expecting me to do? What are the different licenses I need to have? I know I need to have the city council license. I know I need to make sure I have WIBA in place for my employees. I know I need to register my workplace with the relevant department. I know I need to register with NITA. I know I need to register with KRA. All these things are the basic things you need to do as you start the And I think non-compliance is more expensive. Um, when you're not compliant, it becomes more expensive because now you're trying to catch up and becomes very expensive. I've talked about different scenarios where we found ourselves helping our clients mitigate some of these challenges, and we've had to pay very hefty fines. Sometimes you don't even have that money. You might be thinking 100,000, I will pay and move on. You wait until you get in trouble or they walk into your office and they want that 100,000. You will not have it. So I would say it's easier to mitigate than to try and catch up with the law.
Wow, wow. You know, as you said, I'm reminded of here at Aurum Consultants, our mission, I'd like to tell our viewers, our mission here at Aurum Consultants is to be a one-stop HR solutions provider to companies by helping them by leveraging on technology, people, and the law. Because you've got to take leverage on the law. Because if you're going to be a first-class company, if you're going to thrive in doing business, and you come to Aurum Consultants or you go to James's company, remember, James and Aurum, we are both helping our clients comply with the law and even leverage on the law to be able to do certain things well, okay? So that you do not fall foul. Because as Zippy has said, complying with the workplace registration is only 5,000 shillings plus a year. But failure to comply is how many? 20 times more expensive, 100,000. And as James has said, it can be, the judge can decide it is up to 100,000 plus 3 months. 3 months in jail. Kukuwe mahabusu, guest of the state, just because you did not pay 5,000 shillings to comply. Now,
Anthony,
yes.
Anthony, if you could allow me, and again, I think sometimes the biggest challenges as employers, we don't see it as a big deal because we don't know anyone who has gotten in trouble or we have not gotten in trouble. But the truth is, the law at some point catches up with you. You don't know when it will be. It could be tomorrow, it could be a year down the line. It's not an issue of if, it's an issue of when the law will catch up with you. So we need to move from that place of saying, I don't know anyone else who has done this or why we should be doing this. I think from a moral perspective, what James shared earlier, let's be responsible. Let's do the right thing so that we don't end up paying a lot of unnecessary costs. It could take 10, 20 years and you have moved on from your business. Probably your business has transitioned to other people. The truth is, they will pay the fines for what you did not do at the right time for so many years, and the fines will be very punitive. So it's not necessary. So let's comply, I would say that.
Wow.
If I can add something small, maybe we focused also on fines too much, and we are forgetting that nowadays, even when you're doing tenders, some will ask for a workplace registration certificate as an attachment.
Yes.
We lose business because of 5,000 shillings.
Exactly.
That is another consequence. Look at it this way also. You get injured, you get an employee who is injured, and you're telling WIBA to pay. The first thing that WIBA requests for on the DOSH1 form, or rather in the claim forms that you'll be doing, is a number of the workplace registration. So eventually, even before your WIBA claim is paid, you'll still have to go and register the workplace. So let me tell you, it is unavoidable. It is not something you can escape. It's either you'll be found by the law, or you'll lose business, or you'll lose claims to insurance.
Wow, 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 wow. Now, I can see questions are coming in. Thank you, our viewers, for throwing in the questions. I can see Sami Siko is asking, does WIBA only apply to injuries at work or also to injuries to and from work? That is when you're on the road. Simon will answer your question shortly. Just hold on to that thought. And I can see Dache Peter is saying that 100K is not annual. And so for sure, I think he meant subsequent non-compliance, you are liable to pay for that fine. That's something, Peter, James, is that true? That that fine is not annual? Or is it when you're found and you're not compliant, you're charged that 100,000. Okay, up to you. I remember you telling us
It's up to.
it can be up to. Yes.
Yes, it's up to 1,000. And I can tell you, the approach that DOSH uses is not the one that you've not registered, let's go to court. No. Any DOSH officer who will come to your premises will give you what you call an improvement order. Okay? They'll tell you to improve maybe within a 21 day. They'll give you a notice. They'll give you maybe 14 days or 21 days to comply. And just by lodging the registration forms, that is DOSH 21A and 23, that's what we call those forms, and paying the fee to the central government revenue account using the DOSH code, and you have a receipt, it means you're just waiting for the approval of that place as a workplace. And so it is not an issue of nitakupata nikupeleke, no. And before you are taken to court for not registering a workplace, honestly, you even deserve to be jailed. Because it is a very straightforward process. A DOSH officer is telling you, oh, you're not registered. You need to register this place. You need to do an audit. You need to do trainings. You need an abstract. You need a general register. I'm giving you 21 days or 14 days, and they leave that notice with you on the desk. These are notice you can take, call Aurum consultants, call Safepro Limited, ask them, what is this about? What can I do about it? And whatever we are not sure we can complete within the notice days, we write a letter to the same officer and tell them, we are aware we need to do this, but we are requesting for more time. Who goes to court when you have such commitment?
Awesome. I like that clarity, James. I like the way you have really put it, that this is not a big deal, as it were, when it comes to compliance. James, I've dealt with, because part of what we do here at Aurum Consultants is risk advisory, and part of it is in insurance. So I find, get somebody who tells me, give me a WIBA cover for your staff, for my staff. So I tell them, okay, that is true. Give me the list of whatever. But first, do you have a workplace compliance? They are like, dude, what is that? So they are like, now another. No, relax, dude. The law requires you to have registered with the government as a workplace because you have people working here, and it's very straightforward. You have forms that you fill. You send somebody with the money, go there, it is registered. So that by the time now we are taking the WIBA cover, in that area, it is covered. So that in case you ever have a claim in regards to WIBA, then at least in that area, you will not fail to get a claim paid for something as simple as workplace registration. Now, the question comes in. So what are the OSHA audits? Are they necessary, and aren't they punitive to small businesses? I'm sure somebody's thinking like that right now. So probably, James, you could give us some more ideas on what these audits are and their relevance.
Okay. So OSHA audits, of course, envisaged under Section 11 of OSHA 2007. And the first thing that happened actually recently is that DOSH exempted any new business, at least for the first 1 year, from registering and from conducting audits, at least for the first year of business. And this is to ease, businesses to start and be able to at least get some root before they are able to start doing all these things. So that's one thing we must tell to people and tell them. By the way, for new businesses, you have at least a window of 1 year before you can do this. That was a presidential directive. Now, when it comes to OSHA audits, first of all, even when people say they are small businesses, of course, for a small business, even the consultant coming to your workplace understands it's a small business. It's not like the law has said for every audit you're going to pay 100,000 regardless of size. No, that is a misconception we have, and I think that's one thing that people throw as an excuse so that they don't comply at all. OSHA audits are a legal requirement. It is an objective, systematic, and documented and objective evaluation of the systems of work, the work procedures, the rules, the machinery, the work layout, all with the purpose of ensuring that the employees are going to be safe. So in an OSHA audit, you're looking at compliance to OSHA 2007. You're looking at how safe the processes in the workplace are. You're looking at the awareness levels in the workplace. You're looking at everything that the company is doing in terms of their operations to see how it relates to the workers and how to keep these workers safe. So in an OSHA audit, I'll come and probably there's a fire safety section. Let me just give an example. There's a section where they talk about fire safety. And of course, we also have now the fire safety audit, which is a different scope. It's larger than what is covered because that is just a subsidiary legislation of OSHA 2007. So I'll still cover it under OSHA 2007. And I want to give a good example. When Kanjo walk into your premises, they look at whether your extinguishers are serviced and whether you have them. And then they'll walk out. They'll never ask you, where is your storage for flammables? They not want to know whether there is any source of ignition nearby. They will not care whether you have trained fire marshals and when is the last time they were trained. All right? So when you look at now the aspect of safety, Kanjo will be coming to see whether you can firefight when you have a fire. James, when he's coming to do an OSHA audit, he's coming to look at fire safety. How can we prevent, detect early, and extinguish this fire? So we'll be looking at 3 levels: prevention, early detection, and the ability to put out this fire. So this is where an audit now comes out as a superior way of managing your health and safety system, because we are questioning on your preparedness, we are questioning your documentation, we are questioning your awareness levels, whether the entire system can keep your staff safe. Either they leave the workplace better or the same way they came. So that is what an OSHA audit. It's a legal requirement, and it is a very useful tool for you to keep your staff safe. Is it punitive for small businesses? No, it is not, because the cost is not cast on stone. Right? As long as you're in business, you want to make sure you continue being in business. And for that, there is a cost. As to whether the cost is big, small, that is a question of the employer and the consultant sitting down and agreeing on where the parameters. Actually, OSHA 2007 that does not dictate how much an employer pays for an OSHA audit. Purely an agreement between the employer and the OSHA advisor who is approved by DOSH to advise this client. And remember, the word is advice. We will not force you to do anything.
Come on. Wow, James, I can see here, man, you're having cheer. Yeah, I can see on the comment section, man, you're really doing a good job. I can see Mulwa Kelvin saying, great insight, Mr. Kinuthia James. Indeed, those are great insights. I really like the way you have, brought it. That look, if you're in business, remember, as a business person, you've got to control your risks. And one of the risks, especially if you're in business that involves flammables or in a factory of sorts, or a school, it could be a school. Do you have fire equipment, wherever? It could be you have a shop, a supermarket that has paper and all these kind of things that are flammable. So as James has said, you've got to take care of your employees and also of your own assets. Because remember, complying with DOSH is also a benefit to you, because here you're trying to minimize the risks to the assets that you have acquired to be able to do business. Now, there's somebody who asked about WIBA, Simon Sikoyo. They asked about WIBA and whether it's in and out, whether it covers for people who are working in and out of work. So I will tie that question with what the last one I had in my mind. Kindly give us the relationship between OSH and WIBA.
All right.
Yes.
So OSHA 2007 in full is Occupational Safety and Health Act of 2007. Yes. WIBA 2007 is Work Injury Benefits Act of 2007. So these 2 acts are administered by the same department under the Ministry of Labor. This is the Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health Services. And with the recent restructuring, you have a director in charge of OSHA 2007. That is Madam Irene Karanja, a very eloquent and knowledgeable lady. And then on WIBA 2007, you have another director we call Dr. Andrew Muruka. He's the one in charge of WIBA implementation under DOSH. And then, of course, now you have the overall being Dr. Musa Nyandusi, who is the Secretary OSH. a very knowledgeable man when it comes to issues of health and safety. When he talks, you just want to listen to his stories. Probably, I pray that we get an opportunity one day to get
Wow.
to hear him.
I would love to
Right?
have you here. Yes.
Awesome, awesome. So now the relationship is this. Before, when you'd get injured, you had to go get Kinuthia and Sons advocates, and you go to court and you sue, let's say, such and such a corporate.
Yes.
I mean, the kind of a lawyer you get and the kind of a lawyer they get, of course, you
Yes.
cannot compare.
Yeah.
And then it would take years. It would take years in courts. These are ambulance chasers. Of course, when the money is paid, it goes through them. Again, now you
Yes.
start haggling with them to pay you. It was a
Yes.
painful process. The moment you get injured, that would be a point of conflict between the employer and the employee. So most of the time, by the time you're even going to court, you're out of work. WIBA
True.
2007 becomes the solution to this. It is very straightforward. You get injured, your medical bills are paid for. That is what we call the benefit under temporary incapacity. That when you're not able to work, your bills are still being paid for the medical, and you're still getting your pay as usual.
Yes.
After treatment, if it is said that you have a permanent disability, let's say you lost your hand, or maybe a nerve was severed and your hand cannot function the same way anymore, a
Yes.
medical doctor is going to allocate what we call a percentage of disability. So let's say 10% disability. This is going to be calculated against your basic pay. So that is going to be, let's say, 10% times your basic pay times 96 months, which is an equivalent of 8 years of working. That
Yes.
would be the compensation that the employee gets. Do they have to leave the workplace? No. They can actually simply be reallocated to another workstation. So the
Yes.
relationship is this. OSHA 2007 is there to prevent any injuries or any ill health, because you have occupational injuries and you have occupational diseases. These are diseases that come as a result of the work that you're doing. In case everything has been done, and sometimes things will always happen even after you've done everything, and you have an injury or you have an occupational disease, then WIBA comes to compensate. WIBA compensates the occupational disease or the occupational injury that has led to a disability to an employee.
Yes. Yes.
So it's
Yes.
a very straightforward process. And that is why employers are encouraged to keep a WIBA insurance, get a WIBA insurance, so that whatever claims come with regards to the injuries of your employees, then they are paid by the insurance. They don't have to cripple the business. So therefore, there is no reason for any conflict between the employee and the employer. What if it happens when you're going home? This is why you hear of WIBA and WIBA Plus. WIBA will cover an employee only in the course of duty.
Yes.
If they get an accident out there, but in a company vehicle, they are working. If they get injured, it's a messenger, and they're in the course of duty, even when they're out there, they are working. But what if they are injured when they are going to their workplace in the morning? That will not be covered under WIBA. Even if you're hit right outside the gate of your workplace, before you report to work, that will not be covered under WIBA. You'd have to follow the insurance of whatever motor vehicle or motorbike that hit you.
Yes.
But when you talk about WIBA Plus, this is where you combine the WIBA cover with a general personal accident cover.
Yeah.
This will cover you even when you get injuries at home. So if you've been asked to work at home, probably this would be a good chance to also discuss with your employer, what if I get injured at home and we only have WIBA? Could we probably extend this to be WIBA Plus, so that it covers us when we are still at home? Because at the moment, there's still no clarity as to whether your domestic home becomes a workplace when you're asked to work from home. Because therefore, then we'll be asking the employer, provide for me an ergonomic desk if it is a workplace. You know, provide for me a conducive environment, proper ventilation, proper lighting, and all these things. All right? And it's a very murky area. It's an area that you'd have a lot of heat generated by all these KEPSAC, CAM, and whoever. But when it comes now to the issues of compensation, we are saying under WIBA Plus, you will be covered because you're covering both WIBA and general personal accidents that you may get even when you're at home.
Wow.
I hope that clarifies the question. Yes.
Wow. I hope I can see our viewers, our comment section is on fire. I can see there are many questions, many comments. Thank you guys for posting them. And I can see the questions are still coming. I want to tell our listeners and our viewers, next weekend, next Saturday, we will have what we call, it will be a webinar and not just a podcast. Here we only do, like now our time is up. In fact, it was up like 10 minutes ago. But because James was really giving us the meat and bones of this area, we have pushed it a bit. But from next Saturday, we, at the end of the month, we normally do a webinar where James will be invited and someone else also who will be helping us on issues to do with risk and compliance will also be here. And we'll have a panel, myself and Zipporah also involved. And we will now discuss the kind of questions that are coming in. So please keep the questions, write down the questions. If you have questions that you need very urgently answered, they're practical. It's not just about knowledge. You need an answer right away. Here at Aurum Consultants would be very glad to be able to help you with them. You can get in touch with us via WhatsApp, via email, via LinkedIn, and even through our website, www.aurumconsultants.co.ke. And James, kindly, please can you kindly spare a minute and tell our viewers, our listeners, which company you work for and how they can get in touch with you?
All right. I run a firm called Safepro Limited, where we do we help clients comply with OSHA 2007 and WIBA and MCA. So because we also do environmental compliance. So Safepro Limited is DOSH approved to conduct first aid training, fire safety trainings, and setting up OSH committees and actually training them in the workplace also. And then we also now have a consortium of experts. I being one of them. We have environmental experts. We have what we call designated health practitioners who conduct medical examinations in the workplaces. And you can actually get all this information from our website, www.safepro.co.ke. And you can get all the information, even some of the acts that you want to download, OSHA, WIBA, the subsidiary legislations, you'll find them on our website. You'll find a link, you can download them, and you can get more information about OSHA compliance. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, James. Now you've heard for yourself. If you want to know more, or if you are used to dealing with Aurum consultants and you'd like to know more about Safepro, kindly get in touch with us. We would be very glad to connect you with Safepro. So, man, this topic was nice, man. I was also actually, Jemo, as you're speaking, I was just writing notes too, because you never stop learning. So I really appreciate what you have told us. Just like our listeners, I was also absorbing and receiving, knowing that this is something that is very practical, very necessary. Unfortunately, our time is up, and we've got to wind up today. Bring this session to a close. But as I said, we are always available through our website, through LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. You can get in touch with us. So thank you to our viewers. Thank you, James, for being with us, Zippy.
Thank you.
And to our viewers and listeners today, thank you for taking your time to be with us. And we'll be here next week, same time, same place. But this one will be extended. It will be a webinar. We will have enough time to dissect this issue of risk and compliance from all angles, from a labor aspect, from a business aspect, from an insurance aspect. We'll be able to handle all this. So thank you very much, and looking forward to see you next week. God bless you.
Thank you.